Business is really hard in the beginning. I know this because I'm in that beginning phase, and when I say business, I just mean any form of online product or service, anything really, whether that be YouTube or digital software, you name it. Just any form of way to make online income. It's most definitely harder than working a 9 to 5 job for sure. I started there, but we move. And that's simply because, man, you're literally getting an idea. You're using your own brain power, idea from your own brain, and you're trying to make it into reality. You're trying to make it real, man. That's really all it is, man. And most of the time, you're gonna fail. Speaking from my own experience, you're gonna fail a lot of times, man. It's okay. Especially when you're starting out my age. You know, on the internet you see a lot of stuff going on, man. It's everyone somehow living this high life. People my age, somehow millionaires, and it can be very discouraging on people who are starting out on their own journeys in this sense, just creating a long sustainable business that will benefit you for life. And I know it can feel very demotivating when you see all of these dudes living this life. You have people in the red pill space, hustle work culture. You know, they call you brokey. You feel wrong about your situation, even though you shouldn't, because you're a young guy. You're figuring it out, and to get to that area where you want to be, to get to that area where I want to be, you have to go through what I'm going through right now. You have to struggle a lot. You have to make a lot of errors, and it's okay. That's something I've had to teach myself lately. I'd be too quick to class shortcomings as failures, but eventually I'll get to the point, God willing, 10 years from now, where I'm a lot more competent in said field that I want to explore. You know, and why was and is my future able to do that? Well, because of what I'm doing now, making like you said, I was gonna say failing again. All of those errors to what people would class as failures, and it does feel like a failure in the moment because it does hurt. You don't really see things really push forward to the way that you now would like right now. You know, because we're in the first person perspective, we're in that struggle right now. You know, and I'm sure from a third person narrative, someone looking, guess from the lens of maybe someone is already successful, has already made it to said field where you want to be, or your future self, who would actually see the progress. But when you're in that struggle right now, it can be very hard to see that progress, man. Sorry, it can be very hard to see that progress, and yeah, stuff, you know. And I also want to say, there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5 job as well. You know, now obviously me, I'm not fond of it, but I will say it's a good way of saving money for you to eventually, use that money for a business idea that you may have in mind. It's a good way to save. If you don't fall into the peer pressure of, get drunk every Saturday night, over drink, consuming drugs, gambling, even as a young guy my age, right? You can make a lot of money. And yes, two K a month is minimum wage, yes. But you have to look at your situation too. So let's take me for instance, 2K a month. If I were to work a 9 to 5 job, to which I'm trying to do, God willing. Now, it would be a lot easier if I do get monetized on this channel. It would make my plans of money way easier. I don't have all the answers. I'm just doing what I can now, trying to figure shit out and doing what feels right, and makes most sense, most logical right now. Obviously, this is my job. I'm not getting paid on it right now, but I'm still doing my job, right? And I take it seriously as a full-time job, and I've been treating it that way, and I enjoy it too, so it doesn't really feel like work. But let's say I were to get monetized on YouTube like sometime, and that would be nice. It would make things a lot easier for me, of course. But yeah, obviously, I'm that my position right now, still trying to look for a job and whatnot. And I mentioned that to talk about the example. Average wage is 2K a month. You gotta look at your situation too. So me, I'm in a fortunate situation. I live with my mum, right? So I don't really have that responsibility of paying them taxes. Of course, I would pay a share just to, help my out and whatnot. But I mean, like house bills, phone bills, all that stuff. Because I don't have a house yet. I don't. own the house. It's mum's basement. And I've no shame saying that. It's the documentation journey. My channel, we don't lie. I just tell you how it is. So my position, 2K would actually be a lot, you know? 2K would be a lot. And 2 times 12, 24K a year. That's how I see it. Of course, you got your taxes and whatnot. But if I can just be responsible, financially responsible, not fall for peer pressures and whatnot, not spend recklessly on excess drinks or drugs or gambling, it's a common tradition in this country. That's why I mention it. And just not need to spend on unnecessary stuff like a car or clothes or watch that I don't really need at the moment. Then by my standards, I think I'm doing pretty good as a 19-year-old guy, man. Honestly. Don't have all the answers figured out, but gone to the right direction. So I gotta give myself grace in that standpoint. And I do that because it's too much on social media sometimes, man. You see everyone supposedly living this lifestyle that they actually don't have, but it feels like they have it. You may see a 20-year-old on a private jet. How many 20-year-olds on a private jet? It's very rare to do. Unless you're a footballer, some form of athlete, get a big contract early. It seems that everyone is somehow making 10K a month now at 20 years old. And I had a phase, I made a video 3 years ago. I was like, I'll make 10K a month in 3 years, right? In a few months from now, it will have been 3 years. I was even near it. It's a humbling experience for sure. And I'm not necessarily, it's not necessarily a doom mindset. It's just more so a reality check that I've experienced. You see someone else accomplish it. You think, okay, oh, maybe I can do it. I tried, I failed miserably. It's cool. Guess it'll take a lot longer than I thought. It really makes you respect the wealth, the journey. Because you're so used to seeing all of these influencers, they have all these millions of money. You think it's easy. Now it's simple. I like to imagine it's simple. Definitely not easy. And I had my humble pie. To which I already kind of was humble in the sense of I wasn't boasting about it. But humbled more in the sense of, I got that slap in the face. It wasn't as near. You didn't reach your goals as close as you thought you would. And yeah, so like I said, I spoke about that little tangent just to talk about, it's good to work a 9 to 5 in that sense. Just to deal with people in real life and whatnot. I've worked at 4, 2 gyms, 2 sales jobs, you know. So in that regard, it's really good. And you kind of get that validation already, when you're working 9 to 5, you say, yeah, I work at this area. But if you're doing something like me, say my side hustle, for instance, so I tell someone, oh, I'm doing YouTube. It's kind of like, yeah, they're going to go like, yeah, but you're not even successful yet. And it's kind of like that burn that I'd imagine people want to start a business or any form of online presence do receive. It just kind of sucks in the beginning. It's because like you're still building. They don't really see that end product yet because you're still in that struggle. And when you're still building that business, it's like no one really cares though. There's not really any proof yet. Whereas in a 9 to 5, say yeah, okay, yeah, and you get that instant validation. You're working on a business. It's like tell someone, yeah, I'm working on this. And let's say you're starting out, you're not really doing much progress. For them, you say, oh, they won't even take you seriously, even though you made you everything in your power. So when you're in that beginning, no one really cares like that, man. And it's just part of the game, man. So I'm just informing you. And does suck a bit, comes with it. It's a beautiful reward afterwards, but at the beginning, it's just not easy, man. I even like this video. I don't know why I just didn't. Like, enjoyed making it, but I feel like I didn't say what I truly wanted to say. And my mind is kind of everywhere for now. Right now. In terms of, maybe I should have planned what to say in what order. Needless to say, I would say I got a good chunk of what I wanted to say out. Just can't articulate it properly just yet. But yeah, I just say that to say, man. It's always hard in the beginning. Pivot, action, pivot, If things don't work out, find something else, give it another shot. We're all in the struggle together, man. And that early male trial, it's just about testing, failing, because that's going to make us the man and the men that we have to be, and that finished product. Come my 30s, when we're competent in skills, it's because we're making the errors now. So when we get to that prime age, 30 and beyond, you know, It'll be a lot more easier, and we'll make a lot less slip ups. Yeah, that's it. So, anyone in the rat night any in the rats right now, and the young guy, stay in the fight, man. Stay in your goals, whatever side hustle you're doing, man. Stick to it. Stick to it. It's so important. You have no idea, man. It may feel hopeless right now. You won't get that validation of telling people you do for a living. Like, let's say I were to tell someone, "Oh, I do YouTube for a living right now," to which I do. Yeah, but it's like I'm not really profitable right now, so it's quite of a hit, to you in comparison to someone who does recognize values. Yeah, I work in this company, yeah, and this job. But when you're starting a business or doing this, etc., 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 it's like you don't really have anything to show for it. Yeah, which is fine because you're starting out, but you're not gonna get that instant validation of, oh, we're super cool. You do that because you're in the beginning, probably not as profitable just yet. You know, at least if that's where I'm going. Yeah, we move. We'll get better.